Undisputed.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. How about today, guys? We got some big news. How we doing?
What the big news is, Jenny? What the big news is? I ain't here.
You know, Shannon and Jenny, Rob Gronkowski did a great job last NFL season working with us here at Fox. So now he's going to go win, what, a couple of more Super Bowls with Tom Brady, and then we hope he'll come back to us.
Okay. I don't like to be the bearer of bad news, Skip, but I don't really see that happening.
All right. Let's get right to it because, guys, it is going to be a reunion in Tampa this season. The Patriots have agreed to trade Rob Gronkowski and a 7th-round draft pick to the Bucs for a 4th-round pick. Now, Gronk obviously did retire after the 2018 season, but he said yesterday, I always said, when I have that feeling and it feels right, I will be ready to take the field again. And I have that feeling. I am ready. So, Shannon, how much better does this make the Bucs next season?
I think he helps, but there's a big question mark. We don't know what Gronk we're going to get. Skip, you remember before the last season that he retired, Coach Belichick tried to trade him. He tried to move him to Detroit, and Gronk said, I would rather retire than not play with Tom Brady. And so they brought him back, and it turned out very well for him. But, Skip, his last season, I think he missed 3 games. He had his lowest number since his rookie season, 52 yards per game, only tied a career low with 3 touchdowns. So we don't know what Gronk we're going to get because he has an extensive injury history. I counted 11 injuries going back to 2009 in college. He had back surgery, fractured vertebrae, torn ACL, MCL, chest, lung contusion, herniated disc. Skip, you know all about his injury history. And now you don't really like guys with injury history, especially as they start to age. So I'm interested to see how you feel about Gronk. Gronk is going to be on the north side of 30 with that injury history. So that's what the unknown is, Skip. We know when this young man, well, he's not young anymore, but we know what Gronk can do when he's healthy. And he did that healthy, and I'm not so sure he was happy because it seems to me when the feeling got right, once he could be a possibility, he could be out of New England. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Now, what this means, Skip, they're probably going to move on from one of those tight ends. I don't see them keeping 3 tight ends of this caliber on the roster. We never know, but I would be surprised if that were to happen because they did give up a 4th-round pick. And so maybe they can move. I'm thinking they'll probably move Howard, try to get a 2nd or a 3rd-round pick for him. But because O.J. Howard is immensely talented, Skip, I don't even think he's scratched the surface of how good he can be. So I think he would probably be the odd man out. But, Skip, when it goes to Gronk, again, everything comes back to how healthy is he? And remember, Skip, he's a year removed. This is not like someone just starting, you know what, I'm going to take 6 months off, I'm going to take a year off and go pick back up at a normal job. This is coming back playing collision football at the highest level because Gronk has a legacy. He has an expectation of how he should and could play. And so that's what we know he is. It remains to be seen if he can be that once again.
Shannon Sharp, can you say Super Bowl? Can you see the 7-9 Bucs, the Buccaneers, in next year's Super Bowl, which happens to be in their home stadium? I can. I think this is the move that puts this team over the top. I told you, I really like this team just with Tom Brady and all those weapons that he did not have last year in New England. And all of a sudden, I love this team, and Fox Bet loves this team because the odds just vaulted from 16-1 to win next year's Super Bowl, all the way up to 12-1, which is one notch up above the New Orleans Saints, who happen to be in the same division with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're at 13-1. So all of a sudden, Brady and Gronk's team favored over Drew Brees and Sean Payton's team. I love it. And I love the bet that we already made. You bet me that the New England Patriots would have a better record next year than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I said 12-4 for the Bucs. I'll stick with my 12-4, though. It's with a bullet now. And I said 8-8 for New England. I'm not even sure they can go 8-8. So I love my bet there. And I like Gronkowski's chances next year with Tom Brady because, as you know, they are like brothers. Gronk had burned out on Bill Belichick. And the tyrant and the dictatorship that Bill Belichick sort of ran for all those years that Brady and Gronk were together in New England, I think both of them burned out on it. Now they're going to be reunited under a coach who is fun to play for, Bruce Arians, in a not good but great offensive system featuring two other, as you mentioned, very good tight ends and two Pro Bowl wideouts. That means that the onus, the pressure, the responsibility will no longer be all on Gronkowski. You can mix and match him with the others. And again, this is just me. I'll get into this in just a minute. I don't want to see them trade O.J. Howard. I can't believe that Belichick didn't demand in return O.J. Howard, but he was somewhat in Arians' doghouse last year. He's still a young player coming of age. He was a 17th overall player picked in that draft in 2017. I still think they need him to take some of the reps off Gronk so that Gronk can be used sparingly through the regular season and be completely fresh for the playoffs. And there are going to be playoffs for what used to be the Buccaneers. And remember, Gronk needed a year off, Shannon. At this stage and age, he needed 1 year to heal up physically and psychologically and mentally. He said he'd lost his joy for playing football. Bruce Arians, and obviously with Tom Brady, will bring back that joy. He needed now to play in warm weather. And Shannon, you and I know how much warm weather can help those creaking old bones of Gronk's. He's in the perfect place where he won't be asked to do nearly as much. You can flex him out in the formation. You can play him more in the slot. He's still the best blocking tight end in football. If you want to use him some in run formations, that's fine. But the two of them together, to me, you want to talk about crazy momentum they're going to create? Shannon, we're talking about two GOATs. We're talking about GOAT Brady and GOAT Gronk. The greatest tight end ever. Even you have admitted on this show, he's the greatest tight end ever. He's even a little bit better than my man Shannon Sharpe was. And my man Shannon Sharpe's in the Hall of Fame. So he's just 30, so it's not like he's 37 like Jason Witten was when he tried to come back after a year. He's still 30, and I believe that refreshed, his personality is, as we know, maybe as big as any personality in sports. I say on name recognition, just on star impact, if you want to call it Q factor, you have the two biggest names in pro football, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, and suddenly they're in Tampa. And Tampa acquired both of them for no more than a 4th-round pick, which is actually more like a 5th-round pick, because they also got a 7th. So that sort of mitigates the 4th and makes it more like a 5th. So they just stole two GOATs for a grand total of what amounted to a 5th-round pick. That is momentum. That is star power. That is bringing two guys into a system, that a culture that needed to change and realize how great it could be with 4 weapons and now 5 weapons that Tom did not have last year in New England. And what I love the most about this, Shannon Sharpe, is that Tom Brady now has one guy he completely knows, trusts, and can depend on under fire in the clutch in big games, big battles within the division against New Orleans or in big playoff games. I was a little concerned that Tom, with a quarantine-shortened preseason as we go into next football season, and we still don't know exactly how that's going to fall out, but if it's shortened, if it's abbreviated, at least he's got one guy that he completely trusts. In fact, this was the greatest security blanket I think any quarterback has ever had was Rob Gronkowski. And I know his numbers were a little off in his last season that he played in 2018. But when it came time, do you remember who caught the biggest pass on 3rd and 10 at Kansas City in overtime? The third of the 3 3rd and 10 conversions went to Rob Gronkowski. Do you remember who started and finished the game-winning drive in the Super Bowl against the Rams? 1st and 10 on that drive in which Brady completed 4 straight passes. First one went to Rob Gronkowski, and the last one went to Rob Gronkowski for 29 yards down to the 2, which scored the game-winning touchdown. So I saw playoff Gronk, and by the way, he owns every stat. He's the greatest playoff tight end receiving tight end that we've ever seen. And now I think he's reinvigorated, sort of reinvented in Tampa with Tom Brady. And now I love their chances of not only winning the division, but of competing for next year's Super Bowl. Say it with me, Shannon Sharp, Super Bowl.
It ain't gonna happen. You know, Skip, when I look at this move and looking at my timeline yesterday, a lot of people are surprised. I'm not surprised. Well, put it like this. I'm not surprised Coach Belichick traded him. I'm surprised that he wanted to come back, Skip, because he seemed like he was very happy. You know, Gronk, myself, and Tony sat down, I think it was last year, Skip, right before the season started and talked about the evolution of the tight end position and how it transitioned to more of a throw into the tight end as opposed to a blocking. So he seemed very happy working at Fox game show. He seemed very happy doing the wrestling thing. So I thought he was content in his normal life, away from football.